pardoned you and a number of people who he thought Trump would go after.
No, I take the opposite.
The narrative begins with a discussion about President Joe Biden issuing preemptive pardons for several individuals, including Congressman Adam Schiff, whom Biden believed might be targeted by Donald Trump. Schiff, however, publicly opposed these pardons, arguing they were unnecessary. This stance raises questions about whether one can refuse a pardon, particularly since Biden's pardon extended to the entire January 6 committee, of which Schiff was a key figure. The legal ambiguity surrounding the ability to reject a pardon is noted, adding complexity to the situation. The focus then shifts to Schiff's broader political career, particularly his controversial tenure and the sharp criticism he has faced. Recently, Schiff was removed from the House Intelligence Committee by then House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, a decision Schiff attributed to his efforts to hold Trump accountable. In response, Schiff took to social media, specifically TikTok, to lament his removal, framing it as a consequence of standing up to extreme MAGA Republicans. This move drew significant attention and criticism, with commentators like Bill Maher and Greg Gutfeld delivering scathing critiques of Schiff's political persona. Maher and Gutfeld, known for their sharp-witted commentary, did not hold back in dismantling Schiff's carefully curated image. For years, Schiff has been a central figure in promoting the narrative of Russian collusion with Trump, often presenting it as irrefutable truth. Critics argue he clung to weak evidence, weaving a story that captivated the media but ultimately lacked substance. When the collusion narrative collapsed, Schiff offered no apology or acknowledgement of error, instead doubling down on his role as a supposed truth-teller. Maher, in a particularly pointed moment, questioned Schiff's contributions to America, asking what tangible achievements he could point to beyond his anti-Trump crusades. Gutfeld, meanwhile, took aim at Schiff's priorities, accusing him of focusing on impeachment hearings during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, a time when the nation needed clear leadership on a looming health crisis. The critique paints Schiff as a political opportunist, more interested in headlines than in addressing pressing issues like healthcare or national security. Gutfeld argued that Schiff's obsession with Trump distracted the country from critical matters, such as the emerging coronavirus threat. While Schiff pursued what critics describe as impeachment fantasies, the nation was left unprepared for a global health emergency. Gutfeld's commentary was particularly biting, suggesting that Schiff's actions contributed to a national misstep during a pivotal moment. He called for accountability, even hinting that Schiff's actions warranted serious consequences, though he stopped short of explicitly demanding legal repercussions. Schiff's removal from the House Intelligence Committee is portrayed as a long overdue correction. Critics argue that his tenure was marked by political stunts and a lack of substantive contributions. Rather than reflecting on his role in eroding public trust, Schiff quickly pivoted to announcing his candidacy for the U.S. Senate in California. This move is seen as opportunistic, timed to capitalize on his high-profile exit from the committee. However, his Senate campaign is met with skepticism, with commentators suggesting that California voters are growing weary of his performative politics. Schiff's polished demeanor and carefully crafted answers are viewed as emblematic of a career politician, lacking the authenticity voters increasingly demand. The commentary delves into Schiff's broader political strategy, accusing him of aligning with the progressive wing of the Democratic Party while avoiding clear stances on controversial issues. For instance, when questioned about trans women competing in women's sports, Schiff dodged the issue with a non-committal response, a tactic critics describe as political gymnastics. This reluctance to take a firm position is seen as a broader pattern of evading accountability, particularly when issues don't align with his preferred narrative. Maher called out this evasiveness, highlighting Schiff's tendency to offer vague, rehearsed responses rather than substantive answers. In a political climate where voters crave clarity, Schiff's approach risks alienating those who value straightforward leadership. Gutfeld's critique was even more direct, framing Schiff's Senate bid as an extension of his self-serving ambition. He argued that Schiff's campaign is less about serving Californians and more about maintaining his political relevance. The House decision to censure Schiff, making him only the 26th member in history to receive such a rebuke, is presented as a rare moment of accountability. The censure, which passed along party lines, was specifically tied to Schiff's role in promoting the Trump-Russia collusion narrative, which critics dismiss as a baseless hoax. Gutfeld's colorful language, including jabs at Schiff's physical appearance, underscored the intensity of the criticism, though the core argument centered on Schiff's lack of credibility. The narrative also touches on broader concerns about Schiff's legacy. Critics argue that his career is defined not by legislative achievements, but by media appearances and partisan battles. Maher pointedly asked what Schiff has done for issues like healthcare, noting that his public persona is dominated by the Russia investigation rather than tangible policy contributions. This critique resonates with a growing sentiment that Schiff prioritizes political theater over governance. His focus on Trump, particularly during the impeachment hearings, is seen as a distraction from more pressing issues, such as immigration reform or economic challenges. The discussion takes a dramatic turn with speculation about the validity of Biden's pardons. Rumors suggest that some of these pardons, including those potentially benefiting Schiff, may not have been personally signed by Biden, raising constitutional questions. If true, this could undermine the legitimacy of any pardon Schiff might rely on to shield himself from future scrutiny. The idea of ghost-signed pardons introduces a layer of intrigue, suggesting that Schiff's political maneuvering might not protect him from accountability. Critics argue that if Schiff abused his position, no questionable pardon should shield him from consequences. This point underscores a broader call for fairness, emphasizing that no one, regardless of political connections, should be above the law. Schiff's selective outrage is another recurring theme. When confronted with a case involving a judge arrested for aiding an illegal immigrant, Schiff offered no comment, a stark contrast to his vocal stance on issues tied to Trump. Maher seized on this, accusing Schiff of hypocrisy for only expressing outrage when it serves his narrative. This double standard, critics argue, erodes public trust in leadership. Schiff's silence on issues outside his preferred talking points is seen as a calculated move to avoid alienating his base while maintaining his image as a principled figure. The narrative concludes with a reflection on Schiff's Senate candidacy and its implications for California. Critics argue that his campaign is built on the same tactics that defined his House tenure: polished rhetoric, strategic ambiguity, and a focus on personal ambition over public service. Maher and Gutfeld's critiques resonate with a broader sentiment that voters are tired of leaders who prioritize headlines over solutions. Schiff's record, they argue, is one of division and deception, marked by a relentless pursuit of the spotlight. As California voters consider their options, the commentary suggests they are increasingly skeptical of Schiff's brand of politics. The call for accountability extends beyond Schiff to the broader political system. The narrative argues that rewarding showmanship over substance perpetuates a cycle of ineffective governance. Schiff's censure, while significant, is seen as a small step toward holding leaders accountable. The commentary urges voters to demand more from their elected officials, prioritizing those who focus on tangible results over media-driven narratives. Schiff's story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of conflating political performance with leadership. In wrapping up, the narrative emphasizes the need for a new kind of leadership, one rooted in integrity, clarity, and a commitment to addressing real issues. Schiff's career, marked by years of chasing headlines and dodging accountability, is presented as a stark contrast to this ideal. As he campaigns for the Senate, the commentary suggests that voters have an opportunity to reject his brand of politics in favor of leaders who prioritize governance over grandstanding. The critique of Schiff is not just personal, but a broader indictment of a political culture that rewards drama over delivery. With the stage lights fading, Schiff's record is laid bare, leaving voters to decide whether his show deserves an encore.